Dear student, in this video, we will learn how we can implement SSH server on Oracle VM VirtualBox by using the CentOS machine. So first of all, SSH is a software package and that enables the secure system administration and the file transfer over the insecure network. So nowadays it is used nearly in every data center and every large enterprise. So to implement SSH server, first we have to bring the two virtual machines into the same network with the same IP address range. For that, we have to check the network and their configurations. First of all, we have to check the individual machines configurations, that how it is being configured with the network. For that, click on the first machine and go to the settings. Under the setting, click on the network tab. As here you can see, it is enabled to the NAT. So NAT is also known as a network address translation, and it is the simplest way of accessing the external network from a virtual machine. Usually it does not require any configuration for the host network and the guest system, and that is why it is a default networking mode in Oracle VM VirtualBox. So here, to communicate these two internal machines, we need to change this to the NAT network, and to implement this we will change it to the NAT network. But here, as you can see, it is not asking or it is not detecting any particular IP address for this NAT network. For that, we have to change the preferences that are available. So for now, I am going to cancel this. You can also cross-check the second machine's setting and their network configuration. So it is also by default the NAT selected. Now to change this NAT network to so here, to bring these two machines into the same network range, let us check the individual machines configuration for the network. So open the settings and go to the network tab. So by default it is being configured to NAT, and to communicate these two machines in the same network range, we have to change this to the NAT network. Let us check another machine's configurations also. Go to the network tab. Here also you can find by default it is being selected as a NAT. So here we have to change the preferences of the network, and for that go to the file, select the preferences and go to the network. Here, as you can see, there is no NAT network connected as of now. So you can add the new and you can change here. For example, you would like to give the name to the NAT network as, maybe you can give any name. For example, I am giving the name as lab. You can also change the CIDR. It will accept the IP address that you would like to assign. For example, I am assigning the IP address in the range 172.25.1.0, and you can also provide the CIDR/24. Click on OK. And then you can go to the individual machine's configuration and you can select the NAT network that you have added. So go to the network tab, and instead of NAT, now you can choose it to the NAT network. So whenever you choose the NAT network, it will automatically choose the name that you have provided for the NAT network. Then simply click OK. Go to the second individual machine and go to the settings. Go to the network tab and select the NAT network. Here also it will automatically choose the name of the NAT network that we have added with specific IP address. You can add more than one NAT network here. It depends on your own requirement. Then click on OK. Now we have to check whether these individual machines got the IP address in the range that we have specified in the preferences option. For that, simply start these virtual machines. So we have started both the virtual machines, and we will be checking the IP address of these two machines. It takes some time to boot. So let us open the first machine. As you can see, I am running the first machine and the second machine as well. So close these messages and you can bring it for the window, right? So it will, meanwhile it will boot. So now both the machines have booted. Let us log in with the root user and check for the IP address. Similarly, on the second machine as well, you can switch to the root user and check for the IP addresses that you have assigned. So let us open the terminal on the first machine and you can check the IP address by using the command ifconfig. So here you can find the IP address that you got is 172.25.1.11 with the net mask of 255.255.255.0 and the broadcast address 172.25.1.255. So let us check for the another machine as well. Open the terminal and check the IP address. Here also you get the IP address as 172.25.1.4 and the net mask as 255.255.255.0. So now we have brought the two machines in the same IP range. So here once you have displayed the IP address by using the command ifconfig, and if in case this machine is not being assigned with the IP address, for now it is being assigned, but if in case this machine is still not being assigned with an IP address, then we have to check the network adapter by using the command nmcli connection show. It will give you the name of, you can see this, it will give you the various details of this connection. So here wired connection 1 is the name. This is the unique ID of this network adapter and this is of type 802.3, that is the wired connection. So now the next step is to assign or up this Ethernet card, and for that we use the normal command, that is nmcli connection up, and you just provide the name of your Ethernet card, that is wired connection 1. So here you will get the message saying that you have successfully activated the network, and suppose you want to make it permanently up, that is in future, suppose you have restarted your machine and your Ethernet card will be automatically up, and for that we have to use the command nmcli connection modify. We have to modify this name, that is wired connection 1, then give the option connection dot auto connect space yes. I will maximize the screen. So this will automatically up your IPv4 connection for this virtual machine. Again you can check it by using the ifconfig. So this is one of the alternate way to bring your machines into the, or assign an IP address to your machine. You can also repeat the same procedure for your client machine as well. For example, ifconfig, as now it is showing you the IP address, but still you can add this network adapter and you can check by using the command nmcli connection show. So here also the name of your adapter is wired connection. So simply you can up this connection if in case your IP address is not being assigned. So you just need to provide this name wired connection 1 and it will automatically up. To make it permanently, you have to use the command nmcli connection modify the name of your adapter and then connection. I will maximize the screen. Connection dot auto connect equal to or a space yes. So this will automatically up your IPv4 whenever you reboot your machine. You can also cross check by using the command ifconfig. Now these two machines are having the IP. Now once you bring these machines into the same IP range, let us try to ping these two machines. For that, again display the IP address by using ifconfig and try to ping this machine from your server machine. So use the command ping and specify the IP address 172.25.1.4. So as you can see, you are receiving the ICMP messages. So stop this by using Ctrl C, clear the screen and display the IP address of the first machine, and from the second machine, that is from the client machine, try to ping the first machine IP address. So use the command ping 172.25.1.11. So as you can see here, now this machine also is in the network and they are communicating to each other. Stop this. The next step is to assign the host name. To check the host name of your machine, use the command host name ctl. This will display the host name of your server. As here I have set my host name to server1.mit.com. To set the host name, we use the command host name ctl set host name. For example, now I just wanted to change it to domain1.server1.mit.com. And again to check, you have to use the same command hostname ctl. So by assigning the host name, you can identify your server with some domain name, right? So you have changed it to the domain1.server.com, but for now we just make it, or we just change it to the previous one, and for that we use again the same command and modify this command to server1.mit.com. and then again you can cross check the name by using the command hostname ctl. Similarly, you can assign the host name to your client, and here I have already assigned the name as client1.mit.com against the IP which is assigned to this IP address. Next step is to modify your etc/host file. Normally /etc/host is an operating system file and that can translate your host name or a domain name to an IP addresses. So the IP address that we have set to this machine, if you can see, the IP address is 172.25.1.11. So we just wanted to change this IP address against the host name that we now want to change. So for that, simply open the host file which is located under the etc directory, open it, the hosts, and see here I just wanted to change this previous IP that I have assigned to my machine to the new IP of my machine. So let us change it to 172.25.1.11, and I have assigned the name as server1.mit.com for this server machine, and the shortcut name, or we can say the alias name of this machine as server1. Similarly, you can modify the IP address from your client machine. So again go to the client machine and check your IP address. So now modify this to 172.25.1.4, and here you have given the name client1.mit.com and the shortcut name as client1, and save this. Save this and just use the option escape:WQ and you will just come out of this file. Similarly, you can switch to the client machine and edit the vim/etc/hosts file, and you can change the IP address. Press small I. The IP address of the client is 172.25.1.4, and then similarly the IP address of server 172.25.1.11, and save this. So now we have modified our host name and the etc host file. Now let us try to log in from this remote machine to the client. So as here you can see the shortcut name is displayed here as server1, and here it is a client1. So you can communicate with the shortcut name also, or IP address, or the full domain name also, that is server1.mit.com or client1.mit.com. Now use SSH non-interactively to run the hostname command on the server as a root, and for that we have to simply try to log in with the SSH. Let us try to log in SSH space. It uses the syntax of name @ hostname, right? So let us try to convert this syntax into the command SSH name of the user that I would like to log in as a root @, for example, I would like to log in with the client1. So it will ask me the password. You simply provide the password, and here you are successfully logged into this particular machine. At the same time, suppose you just wanted to display the host name of your remote machine. For that, use the SSH root @ client1 space host name. So you just wanted to display the host name of your client machine. You have to provide the password. So it will display the host name. That means, see here, you have run the command on your server machine by using the SSH, and you have displayed the host name, that is known as the non-interactively running the command on the host machine. So this is the use of SSH command. Similarly, you can try to log in from your client machine to your server machine by using the SSH key. SSH root @ server1. It has refused the connection. Now let us go and check the configuration why it has refused. So open vim/etc/sshd_config file and try to check the password authentication is enabled to S. Let us come out of this. So there can be any reason that your host has been refused you to log in. So let us check the service that we are using. We are using the service named as SSHD. So let us check the status of this SSHD service. How you can check the status? By using the command systemctl status SSHD. So now your SSHD is yet not being activated, so it is inactive and dead. So you have to restart this service, and to restart this service we use the command systemctl restart SSHD. Now you have restarted the service. Again you can check the status. So now it is active and running. And now let us try to run the same command from your client that you just wanted to log in to your server machine by using the SSH. So see here, whenever you try to connect to any remote machine, it will try to add the ECDSA host key for IP addresses of your machine, that is the remote machine, that is your server machine. What is the meaning of ECDSA? The meaning of ECDSA is elliptic curve digital signature algorithm. So it creates a particular key, and that by default it sends it to the server machine, and that is how it will allow you to connect to your server machine. So here you can see that now you are logged into the server machine and you can perform any of the command on the server. Now let us try to log in from your client machine to server by using SSH. I wanted to log in to the root user on server number 1. So it is asking me the password. So once you provide the password, now you are able to log into the server machine and you can perform any of the tasks. So this is a kind of a password based authentication to log into a remote machine. There is another approach, to log in to the remote machines, and for that we have to use the concept of keygen. So let us understand the concept of SSH keygen to generate a public key and send that public key to the remote machine and try to log in with that public key. So normally by using the public key authentication is called as a key based authentication mechanism in SSH, and essentially some sessions specific data is being signed using the private identity key, and the signature is then being sent to the server machine and then checks if the key used for signing is configured as an authorized key. The server then verifies the digital signature with the public key and the authorized key. That means it will automatically generate the public key and the private key. So this can be shared. The public key can only be shared, but the private key can be used to encrypt or the message that we have received from the remote machine. And for that we have to use the concept of SSH keygen. So SSH keygen is the tool for creating the new authentication key pair for SSH, and we can use such a key pair for automatically login, also known as a single sign-on, and for authenticating the host. That means from your client machine you can automatically log in to your server machine without giving the password, and for that we have to generate the keygen, and for that use the command SSH-keygen. So whenever you use this command, this will automatically generate a pair of keys that includes the public key and private key of type RSA. By default it chooses the location /root.ssh/id RSA. So here you can also change the location of the file where you would like to store this ID_RSA. Ideally this ID_RSA is your public key, and you can also assign the password for this particular file. Again press enter, we are not allocating any of the password, and then it will generate the RSA 2048 bit key. So you can find here that your identification has been saved in /root.ssh/id_RSA, id_RSA.pub, that is your public key, and here you have been created that public key by using the RSA algorithm. So if you want to check that, first you need to check whether you are working under the root, and you can list the content of the directory root. So you can find the other various detail files, but the directory in which your key pair has been stored is started with .ssh. So that is known as the hidden directory. So to view the hidden directory we use the command ls-al. So use this command, and this command will now display the directory.ssh with read, write and execute permission. Simply switch to that directory and let us check the content of this directory. Now here you can find id underscore RSA. Let us check the content of this directory id underscore RSA, and here you can find this is the signature that it has created. It is a 2096-bit RSA signatures private key. So this key cannot be shared. Also you can check the content of your public key RSA id underscore RSA dot pub is your public key. So this public key is created for root@client1.mit.com, and here you can also see the known hosts file. So you just check what are the content of this known host. So it will identify the host to which you can communicate. So it has automatically taken the IP address of your server machine 172.25.1.11, and that it has identified the host to communicate. So simply come out of this file. So once you have created with the public and private key for the root directory inside .ssh, you need to copy the public key to this remote machine, that is the server machine. To copy the public key, we use the command ssh-copy id. So this command will automatically copy the public IP to your server machine, and for that you just need to provide the name of your server. So to where you just wanted to copy root@server1 and then press enter. So it will copy the ID to your server machines, right? Now let us come to this server machine and let us check whether you are working. So you are working under the root. Let us display the hidden files in this. You can also get the .ssh file and simply switch to that file .ssh. You will list. Okay. So here it is asking me the password. So once you provide the password, then it will copy that file to this. Then let us switch to the server machine and check the hidden file. Switch to the directory .ssh and then you can list. So here you can find the authorized key that is being generated, and that authorized key that you are getting from your client machine, right? So just come out of this file and now switch to the client machine and try to log in remotely with the help of SSH to the root user on server 1. So here you can see that you are logged into the server machine and it has not asked you the password. So we have used the SSH keygen and SSH copy ID to copy. This is one of the approach. The second approach is to copy the public key manually by using the command scp. That we will discuss maybe in the next video.